No more high-rise, we've got enough.
We are not wanting this area to be overdeveloped because it's beautiful the way it is.
The overdevelopment and the overdensity of the Gold Coast has to stop. We're here for our beautiful way of life, and that's being threatened.
The local councillor, O'Neill, conducted a community meeting before objections to the development closed in December 2016 to discuss the concerns of Friends of Rainbow Bay and other interested locals.
The Gail O'Neill, Division 14 councillor who supported the development, was aware of an undeniable community dissatisfaction to the application in its proposed form.
You know, there should be a lot more public consultation, notification, and I think that's what the community wishes their local representative to do.
And don't tell us that you adequately communicated with the local community when, by Councillor Gail O'Neill's own admission, there were discussions going on about this probably during the last city plans discussion period with the community. Well, the community doesn't need to be treated like idiots in all of this.
And what we've got instead is a council that's coming down here in the middle of the night and approving developments without any concern for what the public want and any concern of what might happen in 50 years' time. And it's the people's decision that should count on what goes in here.
If this development, in its excessive size, is allowed to proceed, it makes a mockery of the council's consultative, have your say process.
When you've got a city plan that's already been ratified by the council, that's the result of years and years of extensive community consultation, it should absolutely be respected.
Currently we see developments in Balinga and Coolangatta, such as the commune development here, that exceed density and or height and contravene other provisions of the city plan, such that density trumps everything.
The council seems hell-bent on stretching the boundaries of our city plan for the benefit of the developers and stuff us, the citizens.
The watering down of other provisions in the city plan, such as the complete removal of a provision called plot ratio that put a cap on the overall floor space in developments, is disastrous for city form. It is now the reason that car parking podiums 2, 3 and 4 stories high can be built up to the boundary, thus ruining the amenity for neighbours.
The city plan defines Clark Street as a dividing line or step down in height restrictions from the massive high density further up here, up at the Marine Parade. It restricts building height for the Clark Street, Hill Street precinct to a prize for someone who says it first, 10 stories.
They're talking about a building going in here that's 3 times the height of what's there already and twice as wide.
We're seeing developments approved with very significantly greater densities than what is anticipated in the town plan, which you as a community have basically signed off on.
We find that the commune development and its approval by the council is just one example of similar things happening right throughout the city. And you're only beginning to see the destruction of the southern end of the Gold Coast. They will build these monsters with no regard for your community, your neighbour or your family.
In February 2013, a dedication ceremony occurred up on top of Greenmount Hill. Our reserve has been upgraded, as you know, to World Surfing Reserve, one of only 9 in the world. Both the National and World Surfing Reserves were approved by both local council and state government on the understanding that there be no reference made to issues such as water pollution, development, including marinas, cruise ship terminals, and development of buildings on the foreshore.
We have a situation where Tom Tate says that he wasn't to blame for the sand dunes being removed from Greenmount Beach and placed up at Coolangatta, the top end of Coolangatta Beach. Councillor Tate needs to understand that all of the divisional heads in council, including Elton Twine as the Director of Engineering Services, report to him directly under the Local Government Act.
The damage that's being done to the beach here is going to change the profile of the beach, and that will reflect in the wave formation and the beach amenity itself. Why is it that developments 2, sometimes 3 times the density that show in the density overlay maps in the city plan are being approved? Why?
When you have one large high-rise come into a place, it sets what's called a precedent. And the developers know this, and they can take it to the planning courts, and they can take the councils to the planning courts, and as soon as you get one in, you're definitely going to get a lot more.
Over 90% of development decisions are made collectively by the Mayor, the Head of Planning Committee and Director of Planning, but not including the local councillor.
So we had enough of development, overdevelopment, corrupt development.
We've got problems with a performance-based town planning system, which allows our developers to do whatever they like, regardless of what you or I think. I mean, we only pay the rates. Who are we?
These high-rise approvals are fueling speculation, a market intent upon raising the profitability of land holdings, many with no intent of building and creating jobs.
We the people, that's us gathered here today at Greenmount, Coolangatta.
Your biggest enemy is not parts of the city council. Your biggest enemy is community apathy.
So I want you to speak up. I want you to be brave. I want you to talk to your friends and encourage them to recognise that what's happening in the city is not necessarily in the public interest.
And if you want the ugliness to go on, if you want Surfers Paradise to extend all the way down to here, just let it happen.
Then they have to fight for it. You can't just sit there and say, well, look, you know, I said my bit and I'll go back to work.
That we are seeing deals done supposedly for the progress of our city, for jobs, for stimulus in our employment sectors such as tourism, and all of that's fine if it doesn't degrade the quality of life that we
That's what we're here for.
want to preserve.
Government of the people, by the people, for the people. Not government for the developer. Not government for the greedy. Not government for unsustainable development.